Last one. This will be the last one. Driving. I keep saying that last one, but whatever. All right. So today's workshop is on understanding and engaging youth culture. That whenever we think about designing program, right? For many of us, we think program in terms of like little boxes, right? In terms of video games shooting at each other. Pew! Pew! Meanwhile, the youth that are coming into our programs, man, they are just tuned in. They're plugged into this video world. And what I want to propose to you to think about is to view it not as being a right or wrong, okay? But to view it in terms of it being a culture. Reverend Armstrong earlier told us that, hey, none of us would expect each other to leave at the door what? That we're white, or that we're African American, or that we're Asian, whatever. None of us would ask each other to do that. Yet oftentimes when we talk about faith-based programs, we ask this youth culture if they're going to come into our programs to leave it at the door. And so what I want to talk about is, again, a little bit of what this youth culture is, how it has been formed, how it evolves, and then to give you some very practical tips on how you can engage with this culture. That to many of us, when we're honest, including myself, it is a foreign culture. About 2 weeks ago, I referenced it earlier, I spent some time with a refugee family down in Atlanta from Burundi. Okay, they're used to a hut with dirt floor, and now they're living in an apartment with no concept that, well, when you spill on the carpet, it gets mildewed. I mean, it's a foreign culture. And so, right, you would agree, if I went into that setting and I said to that Burundian mother, I said, no, that's not how you take care of a kid. No. This is called a vacuum cleaner. Take it out, okay? They didn't even know what a circuit breaker was. Kid stuck something in the electrical socket upstairs. All the lights went out when I was living there, right? They didn't even know that there's this little panel that's called, and again, when I went into that culture, what is the posture I had to take? I was a student, and I'm learning, and I wasn't there to judge. I was there to perceive, listen, and be educated by what it is we learn. Again, when we talk about working with youth, young people, it is a culture. And perhaps what I want to propose to you is ways in which we can engage and understand that. All right? So here's another, in terms of the Youth Culture Hall of Fame. Who said content is king? Who's attributed as content king? And I'll give you a little hint. And he proved it by launching in 1981 what we know today and then to be MTV. Anybody know his name? He's attributed it saying content is king. And he proved it in the aspect that if you want to engage and reach and captivate a youth culture, content is king. And in 1981, Sumner Redstone, that's his name. Sumner Redstone today is 81 years old. And he is the oldest member of the MTV generation. Now, of course, he was much younger when he launched MTV. He was the age of, what? 60. He was 60 years old when he launched MTV. So some of you perhaps could sit into a workshop like this and be like, maybe I'm too old. Maybe this whole foreign aspect of youth culture is beyond me and there's nothing I can do about it. Silver Redstone today owns CBS, Redstone, Sumner, Redstone, I'm sorry, sometimes it doesn't come out right, okay? He owns Viacom, he owns Midway Games, which is all these video games that our kids are playing. He owns MTV, he owns BET, he owns Paramount Pictures, he owns DreamWorks, And last but not least, he owns movietickets.com. So in terms of the Youth Culture Hall of Fame, one man in his family, Sumner Redstone, controls and dictates most of the youth culture. Second one, here's another question. Who brought the hip-hop nation to the suburbs? Baggy pants and all. Anybody? Who brought the hip-hop nation to the suburbs? Russell Simmons. Okay? Today, who is the #1 purchaser of hip-hop? Suburban white males. Okay? And Russell Simmons, he was the founder of Def Jam Records, also Def Poetry Jam, and Fat Farm Clothing. How old is Russell Simmons? He was born in 1957. Today, he is 51 years old. And that man, okay, good or bad, because he does a lot of philanthropy and he does a lot of social activism today, and he's an outspoken proponent for youth programs and funders and all that good stuff, right? Some of you shaking your head. He controls the pipeline for a lot of this youth culture. I just want to kind of spell out for you some realities that I work from. And these are some core values that I operate from, and I'm just going to give them to you really quick. This isn't the heart of it, but just so that you know that some of the foundational assumptions and guidelines that give direction to my program. All right? First of all, whenever I work with youth, the first thing that I understand is that God is in control, I'm not. Okay? We do want to control program and control the experience, because otherwise it's chaos, right? But many times in our strategies to want to control, we have to realize God is in control. And I had to double check whether or not this was a faith-based type symposium, and it is, right? So I can talk in that terms. God is in control, we're not. Second one, people are more important than programs. I said earlier, I can't tell you how many times people have come to me, especially funders with a lot of money, and they want to pimp my kids because they see that I'm being really successful, and they need to fulfill some objectives to be able to disperse some money, or somebody over on this program has a bunch of money in a facility, and but they don't have the kids. Guess who's got the kids? Oh, let's call Reverend Montgomery and let's see what we can do. No. You ain't going to pimp my kids, because my kids know that they are more important than my program. And oftentimes, again, just filter it. This is the foundational assumption that I go into to guide what I do. My program is not what's important, it's people. Second one, in terms of what I do, knowing God is more important than knowing about God. When we design program, oftentimes it's these goals and objectives. This is what we want kids to know. All right? Now, how many of you guys ever met my wife? Nobody, right? So if I describe for you all about my wife is the most amazing mother. She never thought she could be a good mother, and we have a 1-year-old. She is awesome. She's a social worker. She works with families and children doing in-home therapy. Now, if I told you all about my mother, or my child's mother, if I told you all about my wife, how many of you can really say that you know my wife? None of you could. So to me, that's just a foundational assumption that I go into it. That, I want people, and I want my kids to know God. It doesn't matter how much scripture that they know or whatnot, because that doesn't mean that they're going to know who He is, right? Fourth one, doing the right thing is more important than doing things right. Okay, you're going to have funders that's going to say you're going to do it this. And as you know, that could not be doing the right thing. And perhaps the right thing is you return the money. Okay? And you don't let somebody else dictate what you know to be the right thing. The second one, there is no one way, and this is why I'm not going to give you a lot of tips or tricks. There's no one way to do outreach and programs. There isn't. Your community is different than my community. I mean, there's no one right way. And oftentimes we pack into conferences and symposiums to learn, if I can just get that one way, And we drive to spend tons of money to figure out what is it that they're doing. There's no one way, okay? Second one, students are ready to lead. And now, if given the opportunity, they're not the leaders of the future. In my experience, I've seen young people do things that adults would never do. I do an annual event that's called the 30-Hour Famine, in which youth fast for 30 hours and raise money for global poverty. And every year I pack 125 kids to sleep over in a church with no sleeping bags, no nothing, for those 30 hours and fast. And I tell them every year, you know what? I would never get 125 adults into this church to do what you're doing for somebody else. So, assumption that I go by: students are ready to lead, to minister, whatever, now. The next one, silence and solitude. Oh wait, did I get ahead? What happened? Let's see, I'm not looking at my thing. Oh, there we go. Silence and solitude. Why don't I go ahead and click all through them, then you can look at them. Oops. Let's go back. Technology, I love it. Silence and solitude. When we think about program, we think of the video game thing. Oh, we gotta match that. We gotta like blow their socks off. I have found that students are most impressed by times when I give them opportunity to be silent. Because it kills them. Because they have music pumping into their ears and they have so much stimulation going on there for them just to be able to stop and rest and just chill. Right? Another one is the journey of faith takes time. It's not going to go according to a program objective. It takes time. And in the work that I've done, you know, I mentioned earlier, you know, I've had 100 brothers and sisters that were in foster care that I lived with, right? Yeah, some of them are still in their 30s, and it takes time. And so even though we might have them between 6th and 8th grade, or maybe even from 9th to 12th grade, we think, oh man, we should have it nailed in 4 months. No. It takes time. Next one is humor. Humor, woohoo! You know, and sometimes the humor is directed where? It should be directed where? At yourself. That's right. Oh man, you know, I think sometimes we get caught up in the trap of working with youth that we have to be cool, we have to be all that. I found if I am being the most stupid, out there, clown, bozo of a guy, oh man, it makes it so cool. Because that's what they remember years later. Oh man, remember when Rev J, he did that? Yeah, little do you know I did that on purpose, right? So, all right, humor goes a long way. And then here's the next point that foundational assumption that I go by, is that spiritual growth is, well, spiritual. So, when I work with young people, questions are more important than answers. Small, like one-on-one stuff is better than big. It's not about how many you have in your program. It's the quality of program. Slow is much better than fast. They're living in a high-paced world with things thrown at them all the time. Slow. Discomfort. Back to that like sleeping on the floor type stuff. Okay? Discomfort is better than comfort. I don't want them to be comfortable. I want to rock their world, and I want to shake up their comfort zone. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And then uniqueness is better than sameness. And that goes, getting back to program, you know, it's better to be just who you are. All for the, hey, if you love to knit with the kids, and show them a love for knitting. I don't know. Anybody knit here? Okay, maybe not. So in terms of understanding youth culture, just to get a little like theological with you just for a second, Frederick Buechner, he quotes German theologian Karl Barth. And great theologian, and Karl Barth says this. Sometimes theologians, when you read them, you can't understand them, but I think you can understand this. Listen to this. He says, when people come to church, what do they come in search of? So think of your youth, your programs, your children. When people come to church, what do they come in search of? Entertainment and instruction? Edification? No. They come with expectancy. That is why that we are all there, all of us. It is above all expectancy that throbs in the stillness like a pulse. All of these people out there in the pews, some hostile, some searching, Some both at once, some young and some old. And so when you think about reaching out to youth and engaging youth culture, what are they seeing in your program? How do they perceive you? Okay? Now, one thing that I like to do is, and again, in studying culture, I look for little tips and little clues to answer stuff like this. So you want me to show you a little clue that I found? How many of you guys watch King of the Hill? Yeah. All right, here you go. If you've never seen King of the Hill, this is from the theologian King of the Hill.
I'm having trouble letting this pew situation go, Peggy. I don't know, maybe I'm just being petty.
You're not petty, honey. It is Struth who has lost touch with the little things that matter. I have offered her countless ideas for adding some pizzazz to that church. She's rejected them all. Maybe we should try a new megachurch.
I don't want to change churches. Besides, that place is too big. What's it got, 5,000 some odd members?
And it pampers all of them. They have their very own coffee shop, florist, mini-mart, bank, and a dry cleaner that accepts all competitors' coupons.
If I wanted to go that route, I could just walk around the mall and think about Jesus.
So what do you do with artichokes? Do you eat it?
Yeah, just not the furry part that looks like asbestos, honey.
If a fellow was looking for a new church, does anyone know a good one?
I got a great church. You're gonna love it.
My church is made out of steel.
You gotta be right with God to go to my church, honey. It's hardcore.
All right, well, break it up. Give the man some room.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're coming with me, boy. Jesus here. Get back, Satan. Get back there. Jesus love and Jesus man. Jesus, promised land.
Ampararnos, salvanos, ten misericordia de nosotros y guárdanos, oh Dios, por tu gracia.
Señor, ten piedad.
Por Dios Cristo,
Señor, ten piedad.
por la Madre.
Day by day, day by day.
I just want a decent, normal church. Is that too much to ask?
You had a perfectly good church and you were disloyal to it.
Reverend Stroop was the one who was disloyal, not me.
Me, I don't go to church. Church goes with me. I'm worshiping when I'm drinking a beer, digging a hole, or fishing for trout.
Ah, that's beautiful, Lucky.
Luann, I happen to know it's asinine.
I think we have no choice. It is time to try the megachurch. You know, the preacher used to be a quarterback for the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, and I still don't want to go. That ought to tell you something.
Fine. We won't go to any church. You and I and our son will live the barren, empty lives of secular humanists. Dad!
Well, I guess I can understand buying coffee in church, but do you really think Jesus recommends Nat King Cole?
The tram to the sanctuary is now boarding. Parishioners, please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle.
Oh, God.
All right, so most of our youth are coming into our programs with that response. Oh, God. Maybe you can relate to this letter that was written by a youth worker from the Salvation Army in San Francisco. This is what this youth worker wrote. I go to the coolest church. With an average of about 75 people on a Sunday, we are made up of more than 25 nationalities and 14 native languages. We are the church with its sleeves rolled up, where the recovering sits next to the reformed prostitute and where the sweetest old lady has no problem hugging the smelliest old homeless guy. And man, does my church love kids. At least monthly, my kids are asked to dance a hula or hip-hop during worship. Youth is celebrated in our church. We never get threatened with the fires of hell when things get destroyed. They just fix it. No one cares that the youth worker's office looks like chaos vomited, or that the teens use the chapel for a WWF SmackDown fight. My church could care a flying rip when we break a window during a marathon session of war ball. They just love the kids like Jesus would. Unfortunately, to get to my church, you have to walk through dirty, urine-stench streets, step over a drunken man passed out in the doorway, avoid the dealers on the corner as you risk being propositioned by 4 or 5 transgender prostitutes. Basically, to get to my church, you have to sift through the garbage left by life. Garbage my youth live every day. For the most part, the kids in my youth group live in a 1-bedroom or studio apartment with 4 or 5 other people. They are the kids whose parents work too much, or are addicted too much, or just don't care enough to even come home at night. Some of my kids have never even slept in a real bed. Before I became the youth worker, most of my teenagers had never even eaten in a restaurant. They'd never been to the movies or even been to the beach, which is only less than 2 miles away. I am fortunate enough to have 25% of my church budget dedicated to the youth programs. Now,
Zazu condoms. 1 second.
all right, yeah. What up? Oh, sorry. It's okay. We're not beating children in here. This is no demonstration of beatings. Okay, that was a video, right? You guys saw that was a video? Oh, boy. Yeah. Lock me up. So let me ask you a question. What values are being expressed and are being shaped there within the mentality and the mindset of our young people who watch that? Shout them out. Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of answered the question that I was going to.
Yeah, what was your question?
My question was that I've always thought that culture was shaped by their peers, but from seeing this, you're stemming back to their roots.
I do.
Right, yeah. Where that has a large amount of influence. Apparently, people used to get everything he wanted, and so that was just how he reacted, because actually that's how kids react when you give them everything they want. And then when they get in public, they don't understand. Okay, you're used to saying yes, and now you're saying no. And when I see that, it always reflects back to, it didn't begin in that store with that toy or whatever you wanted right then. It began when he was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and never had any cutoff point to what you gave that child.
Right.
It was never a cutoff. Nothing was never too good.
Right.
You wanted because you love little Johnny or Sue.
Yep.
So it didn't start in the store.
Right. Of course it didn't. But in terms of this commercial airing, all right, not to dissect exactly what happened in it, but what is this commercial portraying in terms of shaping the values of youth culture? Somebody over here? Yeah.
It's trying to teach them how to use contraceptives and not be, I would say, irresponsible.
Okay.
Because these are the consequences.
So these are responsibility in terms of this is the consequences? Yeah.
Or it's like this could happen to you if you're not careful. You're gonna have a kid that's gonna be driving you crazy and screaming and crying and carrying on.
Right.
You know what? Would think a teenager.
Okay. All right. Yeah, gentlemen.
Basically, just to have sex and avoid consequences.
Okay. Then say that again. I didn't only caught partial.
Just have sex and avoid consequences.
Just have sex and avoid consequences. Okay. Yeah, we'll come back to you, gentlemen. That's right. He said if you're having sex, be careful of the consequences that you could end up facing. That's right. Yeah. What did you see?
It devalues the family, though, and it devalues children.
Yes. She said it devalues the family and it devalues children. When I saw this, I was appalled. Okay. For one thing, the value that I saw was immediacy. That there's this value that, hey, I want it and I want it now. And if you don't give it to me, I'm going to throw a fit. And everybody around it is going to know. How many kids or youth do you know that's like that, right? The value that I saw that was expressed here is sensuality, in the aspect just like what we're talking about. Hey, go ahead and screw around. Just don't, suffer any consequences. I know I got to move it on. But I think the one that really struck me the most was that children are just a consequence. They're a mistake. And if you mess up as an adult, okay, that little kid, okay, and the kids that are walking into your program, and the youth that are walking into your program, has been communicated even through a commercial like this, that mom and dad did not use the correct equipment and protection. And it speaks out to me because I don't know how much behind closed doors counseling you guys have done. Kids wear this all the time because they're ignored, they're neglected. And so again, it's just another little precept in terms of what values, that here, this commercial, that's what I picked up. And I appreciate all the other perspectives because there's definitely that going on. It's communicating that, yeah, I'm just a mistake. I'm just a mistake. I do need to move on. I'm running out of time because what I really want to get into real quick is just this concept of worldview. Whenever we look at sociology, this is what's going on. All of us wear a lens. It's a worldview lens. And this lens is being shaped and it's being formed by many different things. And this worldview, all of us have it, okay? Some of us have a Republican worldview, okay? Some of us have a Democratic worldview. I mean, go on and on and on about all of these tints in these glasses that you and I wear. And youth have this too. And so a worldview is the lens through which people see and interpret their world. These are principles, they're beliefs, and it colors every single decision, every single attitude, every single relationship and experience that they have. And so today's youth culture sees things through what is called a postmodern worldview. And in the church world, what I've discovered is we haven't quite gotten it. That when youth come into our programs, they're coming into this worldview with these understandings. Number one, objectivity is out. Okay? You can't tell me what to do. Subjectivity is in. It's all about what I got to do to survive. And you can't tell me what I'm going to do. Okay? Objectivity of you being rational adult. Now listen, that's not the way we do things. No, it's not. That's the way I felt. Subjectivity is completely in. They question everything. Truth will never again have a capital T. Truth is what it means to me. And you can't dictate to me what truth means. Okay? You will know me by my story. Because my truth, my understanding, my beliefs is all about what I've gone through. You don't understand what brought me into this situation. You have to understand my story. Authenticity. Did I get ahead of myself? Authenticity is the most important character trait, okay? I try to exhibit authenticity about everything I do. I speak it the way it is because that is what is important. That's the most important character trait. Bill Clinton, okay? I sit in an ethics class right now for my MBA program, and it's interesting to see the wide spectrum of what Bill Clinton did, okay? Most people would only air him in the fact that he wasn't authentic. Meaning to say, it didn't matter that he was sitting in the Oval Office doing stuff, right, with an intern, all right? It didn't really matter. That the only thing that really mattered was the fact that he didn't be honest about it and he wasn't authentic about it, right? In this postmodern worldview, authenticity is everything. The only thing that Bill Clinton or even Spitzer or even McGreevey did is that they were a hypocrite. They weren't authentic. That's the only thing that they did wrong because, hey, that lifestyle is okay. Again, tint, lens, is that relationships matter. Institutions don't. They don't care about your program. They want to know whether you're going to meet their needs, whether you're going to greet them with a smile, and that you're not going to ask them, again, to this cultural issue, you're not going to ask them to check their culture at the door. All right. So what I want to give you, I've completely run out of time. I'm going to give you some skills of engagement. All right. Can we skip to that? Yeah, I got into some stuff here. Here's some burning issues. You have to, I don't know. All right, here's my skill number 1, all right? Okay, what you can do to engage, and I've mentioned it before, is to become a student of your students. How do you do that? You can ask safe questions. Very safe questions. Again, when I was with that Burundian family, when I was in Brazil one time, man, I didn't know a lick of Portuguese. But somehow you got to figure out whether there's a language barrier, cultural barrier, there's a socio-economic barrier to ask safe questions. Yo, what's in your bag? What's that all about? Oh, and you know, with some trust, they'll tell you. Okay? Oh, it's interesting. Why is those things written inside the brim of your hat? Oh, okay, you're gang involved. Great. I wanted to know that. All right, be a student of students, okay? Ask safe questions. Another one that you can do is to investigate unfamiliar answers. Oh, that's funny. I never heard of that. All right, with the lingo, right? With the slang, with all this I am, like blah 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 blah. You know, there's even commercials about that. You know, with even Granny sitting there talking back to the teenager in I am language. All right, is to just ask and investigate. Hey, if there's something that doesn't make sense, just ask question. Okay, if something's not familiar, that's interesting. I didn't know what that meant. All right, can you explain that to me? Part of being a student of students is always to ask yourself, so what? So what does that mean? So what? It's interesting. So what? All right. Again, I got to speed on. Okay. Here, some other ways that you can become a student is that you can meet families. Okay, that's why I did home visits for years with the Boston Police Department in Boston. Meet their families. Always want to know the context that they're in. You can get on IM, instant messaging. You can get on a Facebook. Man, there is really some interesting things young people will tell you when you're in their world. And right now, where's their world? Facebook and MySpace. All right, and they'll send you a little message because you're there and they see your funny old school picture on there, but they think it's so cool that you're 41 years old, all right, and in my case, 34 years old. I know, okay, I don't look it, thank you. Thank you, some more, I don't look like it. Okay, 34 years old, and they think it's so cool. Oh, look at that, Reverend Jay, man, he's got a Facebook. That's hilarious, and you will be surprised just by you entering into their world exactly what's going on, all right? Watch a few of their shows. There's some movies I would never permit myself to watch, okay? But I need to know what exactly is being pumped into their brains, all right? So I know how to combat it. So again, I can understand their culture, all right? I will never again eat these little beetles that, you know, sometimes are offered to me when I travel. Or, you know, one time I was in an Asian context in San Francisco, working with the Chinese church. Chicken feet, yo.
They're good.
You like them? Oh, man. I just can't do chicken feet, all right? So there's some things that, again, when you want to discover, understand a culture, that you're going to subject yourself to because you want to understand it. You want to know how to engage it, all right? Here's another tip I'm going to give you. Skill number 2. This one's really cool. I just came up with this one last night. In my MBA program, was in a course called Leadership. And in this leadership course, there's a book right here on leadership. And this, I think, is one of the skills that I utilize, is that there's been some research done by this guy named Eric Byrne, and he looks at different types of leaders, all right? And when you break it down in terms of like a Freudian way, that there's these psycho-egos, and now I'm really sounding like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. And so in terms of leadership, the ego can take on different forms or functions, whether you're the leader or the follower. And like in this case, oftentimes as leaders, these are the different roles that we can slip into. Number 1, we can be the parent. Number 2, we can be the adult. Number 3, we can be the child. Now think real quick. Leaders that you have worked with, adults, that slip between these, okay? There are some leaders that act like children, and we don't want them. That's not the role that we play. And then in terms of those relationships, in terms of the youth that we lead, some people ask me, how is it that you get youth to do that? And I just found this theory. It was like, whoa, you know, the studies is out there. It just shocked my brain this past week. This is cool. This is a good explanation. One reason why I found is that as a leader, depending on the role, it will solicit a different response. So sometimes if I act like a child, all right, oftentimes you can jump in and try to be the parent. Oh, we got to take care of him. You know, we got to make sure, oh, he's just stupid. Oh, let's teach him. And, you know, again, in terms of that being the student role, right? You know, that's not a good place to slip into where they feel like they're needing to take care of us. Because in our society, a lot of youth and children are needing to care for their parents. Because their parents are strung out on drugs, their parents aren't working, they're straight, whatever. You know the case. All right, so kids, when they look at us as a leader, and this is the question I'm asking you, what type of leader will you be? All right? And it's not good to be a parent. This is the dominant style that I see among leaders. Is that when we put together a program, most of us in this room are parents. We know how to parent. And so we walk in and work with children and youth. And so we're going to be parents. And then we wonder why Johnny or whatever his name isn't sitting on his chair and he's not doing this and being rebellious. Is because they're responding to you as their parent. And maybe their parent just beat the snot out of them that morning. And so they're walking into your program and you're treating them like a parent. Again, some people would look at me and say, well, the only reason why you're successful and you're able to do it is because you're cool, you're hip, they can relate to you. No. Here's the secret of my success, all right? Is I treat them like adults. They live in an adult world. They know more about oral sex and STDs and all drug paraphernalia than any of us in this room. They know more about technology and global issues than almost any of us in this room. And so they come into our program and away from a parental or even an adult level, treat and subject them to being a child, or perhaps expect that they take care of us, and then we wonder why we can't keep and retain and reach and keep kids, youth. So I just want to propose that to you, that what kind of leader do you want to be? And I have found that when you treat them eye level to eye level, some of it goes back to that point that I said too, foundational assumption I work from. Youth are ready to lead when? Now. They don't need me to lead their program. Oftentimes. And when I've stepped out of the way, you know, these band nights that I told you about, like in the panel, like these youth are running it. Like I walked into the church this past week and my speakers were gone. All right, my JBL, you know, $1,000 each speakers were gone. All right, I freaked. Okay, and so I inquired what had happened. One of them was repaired. I didn't know about it. The 17-year-old kid arranged with the senior pastor to be able to drop by 2 weeks ago to pick him up to bring him to the repair shop. That's cool. That was him exhibiting an adult level of leadership. And again, anyway. All right, so here's the last point I want to give to you. I got two more real quick. Hijack youth culture. I showed you that with the King of the Hill. All right, use it. Hijack it. Steal it. I am the biggest, not procrastinator, plagiarist. You know, when I was studying youth ministry in school, I had a youth professor. I loved him. I still love him today because he said, you know what? Steal everything. Steal it, man. People are going to tell you, you give credit. That's when it's plagiarism, when you don't give it credit. Right? But steal it. Hijack their movies, their TV. Like, for instance, this is one that I pulled off. How many of you guys seen this?
All of the idols. Are they ready to come
out? You guys watch American Idol?
Okay, bring them out.
All right, this is from this week. Do you know what happened this week? Yeah.
Hold on for 1 second.
So think of ways that you can use this in a discussion, okay?
I want to go to Randy and get your quick opinion on round one. Jackson, go.
Round one, Jason. I thought it was just okay, man. It was better than last week, just okay.
How many seen this? You see it?
David Cook.
You know what's coming up, right?
Very good, in the zone, very strong, doing your thing. Brooke, better than last week. Still a little karaoke for me. Archuleta, The Bomb, brilliant. Saisha, you definitely kind of in the zone too. I thought it was strong. It was very nice vocals. It was strong. It wasn't amazing, but it was strong.
Paula?
Oh gosh, we've never had to write these things down fast enough. Jason, the first time I loved hearing your lower register, which we never really hear. The second
you know what's
time,
coming up, right?
I felt like your usual charm was missing for me. It kind of left me a little empty. And the two songs made me feel like you're not fighting hard enough to get into the top four. So, David Cook?
No, we should just on the first song. Just on the first one. Just on the first one.
I thought you, oh my God, I thought you sang twice.
Wow. Just once, but Paula, you're seeing the future, baby. You're seeing the future.
You know what?
She's coming back. All right.
All right.
Hold on.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. All right, so enough of that. How would you use that in a discussion if you wanted to hijack that? That just happened when Wednesday night, right? All, you know. And again, how could you even use like an American Idol? In the aspect that they feel like everywhere they go, there's a panel of judges that is watching everything little they do, and that's going to rip them to shred. Sometimes it's in a British accent, sometimes it's in a white Anglo, you know, accent and look. But everywhere they go, all right. So think of ways that you can hijack culture and what they are viewing in the world that they live in to be able to present, all right? And I probably got to wrap it up, but I'm going to give you a last point, and that is to subvert consumerism. The 30-Hour Family is what I mentioned before. My new organization that I work with is called World Relief. We have we resettle refugees in the United States, and there's this cool program that I referred to that I spent some time with Burundi family down in Atlanta that's called Real Refugee. And so I encourage you to get a postcard, email me, and all that good stuff, but to subvert consumerism, and I'm going to shut up and go to sleep. But could I open it up just for a quick Q&A? Is that all right? Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've gone over? Yeah.
As far as some of the methods that you use with your youth groups, how is it transition over to the Word of God, where the Word of God is also being effective, and to your activities that you're also presenting to the community?
Yeah, that's workshop number 2. No, not really. If you think about it, that's like an entire thing, right? My methodology, once I get them into the door, is a completely different subject. But in a nutcase, because relationships are important, the last thing I do is I preach to them. Diane referenced it earlier. We now in our youth lounge, I thought it was really cool to put a bunch of couches in the youth lounge, right? And that worked for a little while. And then last September, I got some grant money to put in carpet before it was tile, right? And why would there be tile in a youth lounge? Because everybody knows they spill. And so you don't want carpet in a youth lounge. And so what do? I went out, man, and I told these youth, go to Home Depot and tell me what carpet they want. They picked the thickest stinking carpet that you could ever find with the biggest padding, right? In order to put down this padding in this big room and all this carpet, we had to take out all the couches and remove it, everything. So we put down the carpet. After they saw the carpet, do you know what their response was? Where do you think those couches are right now today? They're like all piled into an extra room. They didn't want the couches back then. Why? It's because they took in all the cushions and all the pillows, right? And think about your space, okay? And they put them on the floor, okay? They took out their, no, they didn't take out a gun, but I was going to joke, but that wasn't going to go anywhere. But, they shut off all the lights and they put out some really cool lamps, right? And it's just now a chill space. And so whenever we do our programs, like, hey, circle up. Everybody circle up. So everybody sits knee to knee and we kind of talk, And it's now a space that they feel comfortable. Right? And then there again, now that they feel comfortable, relationships are important. Back to what your question is about the Word of God. Okay, who's now ready to listen? All of them. And there's different issues of methodology that I could get into with you, but.
Like you say, how you designed their area, gave them a sense of trust and confidence.
Right. Right.
And you wanted them to be comfortable.
Right.
You accepted them for themselves.
Yeah, she's saying that I gave them a trust and a confidence that that they could change it. Yeah, but let me be very clear, right? I was 6 years before I had the authority and the permission to change that space. You feeling me? Okay? Because I was working with a church that, no, they wanted the tile. You ain't gonna waste money and put carpet in there. So I went out and got the money myself, right? But you know what I'm saying? So some of these changes aren't immediate, but the relationships, yeah.
Do you find, again, we're just starting, I've been doing youth ministry for some time, but just branching out and doing the community outreach myself. And like you said, when you're working with the church, it's one thing, but when you're doing your own thing, it's another. What do you foresee being a decent time frame to expect the kind of growth that you know that you can have in a particular group. Right now, we can see anywhere from 20 to 30 kids, and I think that's pretty decent, especially for the space that we're in. But again, you don't see them as frequent. So,
right.
Again, it's not in the numbers. It's really about the quality that you're getting out of the situation. But you know, you have a desire to see things grow.
Yeah, so the question is, how quick can you expect to see some results and some inroads in terms of success? And that's really tough. I think in the normal programs that we typically do, I would say about 3 years, 2 to 3 years, okay? Having said that, I can bring, and I've done it, I have the track record, I can bring some youth down to Mexico, okay? I can bring them to Kenya. All right, I can give them this 30-hour family experience. I can bring them away. Give me 1 weekend with a kid, okay, and I got them, okay? And the reason why is because I break them out of their comfort zones, and I shake their worldview to let them see that the way they see things, whether it be a street thug life or whether it be a rich, yuppie Westfield life, is not reality. And then they're looking at me as, okay, to show us reality. That's how I do it. That, if you wanted a shortcut and a real quick thing, to me, retreats, trips, camps are the way to do that. Why? It's because given, like in a church setting, I have 2 hours a week with them. Do the math. 2 hours times 52 is what? 104? I have 104 hours with youth. On a one given week, how many hours do I have with them? Do the math. You get me? All right, so in 1 week, assuming we got most kids for about 10 hours a week, 10 hours on a given trip, do the math, times 7, that's 70 hours. That's almost a year's worth of time in 1 week. And then, so for me, when I look at it from an empirical, objective standpoint, no wonder I find success in my trips, my camps, and my mission trips, and retreats and all that. But we got to close, we got to go. Can I swear you in? Can everybody stand up? I got a youth worker declaration of purpose that I like to always, so everybody please raise your right hand and repeat after me, all right? All right, please everybody stand up. If you want to be sworn in by a youth worker, as a youth worker today, all right, repeat after me. Whatever it takes. No, a little bit louder than that, all right? Whatever it takes, I will engage youth culture. Because I do what I do for God's glory. And for the good of the generation growing up behind me. Now, I need to hear you a little bit louder, all right? For growing up behind me. I'm not here to preserve my cultural preferences or to make sure my church makes budget. Do I still have you? Okay, a little bit louder, all right? Okay, it's not my job to save the English language from ruin or to defend good taste in grooming. All right, did I lose some of you? Because, here we go, repeat after me. That's why I'm not certified as a fashion consultant, a hairstylist, a dialogue coach, or skincare expert. I am a missionary sent to express God's love to all kinds of adolescents in the world as it is, not the world as I would have it. If there is a greater calling, I don't know about it.
I don't know about it.
All right. Thank you for your time. Have a seat.